So now we are going to make pastry cream. So I have the ingredients ready here. I have the yolks, the sugar, the all-purpose flour, corn flour, butter, milk and vanilla extract. Okay. As for the first step, I'm just going to have both the flours, the all-purpose flour and the corn flour mixed together, and I'm going to make a paste out of it, that is to keep it lump free. Okay, so a little bit of milk goes in. I'm going to use a teaspoon and mix this and make it lump free. And once I've made a paste with no lumps, I'm going to set this aside, and into the yolks I'm going to add half of the sugar and mix it together using a wire whisk. So this also I'm going to set it aside. The butter and the vanilla will be used after we have cooked the pastry cream. Okay, so into the saucepan I'm going to add the rest of the milk, and I'm going to wait until the milk starts to boil on the outside of the edge. Okay, so until then I'm just going to keep it on high flame, and once the milk comes to a boil, I'm going to add the milk in a steady and a slow stream into the yolks with the half of the sugar, and into this milk I'm going to add the rest of the sugar as well. And now this milk with the second half of the sugar, once it comes to a boil, I will be adding that in a slow and steady stream into the yolk. Why we should be adding the milk, the hot milk into the yolk in a slow and steady stream is to temper the egg, which means you don't want to add like the really hot milk into the yolk and give that a shock, because the eggs and the yolk now would scramble and you want to keep that really very creamy and smooth. For that step, we are just going to add the milk in a slow stream and whisk the yolk with that half sugar there. So now I'm just going to wait until the milk begins to boil. So I can see the sides are beginning to boil. I'm just going to take it out of the stove and use the wire whisk. Keep whisking with one hand and pour the milk in a slow stream and keep whisking the yolk. So once you've mixed the hot milk into the yolk, now we pour this back into the saucepan, because we're just going to cook the yolk with the milk, and into this we're also going to add the flour paste. And I'm going to put this back into the stove and then cook. Now I'm going to be careful, watch this constantly and keep whisking. Now the moment I see it is starting to lump up, or the moment it is just going to change from being in the liquid state to have lumps, or the bottom of the saucepan is just going to solidify, I'm going to keep a watch for that and then act immediately, which is to take it out of the stove and then whisk it brisk with the wire whisk, and that is what is going to keep the pastry cream very creamy. If you're going to overcook, then it is going to become a very solid mass which is not going to be creamy. So it is beginning to solidify at the bottom. So I've just reduced the flame as well. Okay, so you can see this texture. So because it will harden up, or the texture will change. It's not going to be as soft as you see when you're just going to switch it off and take it out of the oven. So once you take it out, this is the consistency that we are going to look at. We also call it coating the back of the spoon, which means you have a spoon and then you take it out, it is going to coat the back of the spoon. So that is one texture we can just look at and then stop cooking. Okay, so when it is hot, now we are going to add butter. And then the vanilla also, and then use a wire whisk and then allow the butter to melt as well, combine with the pastry cream. Now you want it to be very clean, smooth and shiny. Okay, but then the consistency is going to thicken up even what you have now. Now this I will transfer into a bowl. So I'm going to transfer this into the glass bowl. Now if you have scrambled some part of the yolk during this process because you couldn't pour the milk in a slow stream, now at this stage, before transferring it into a bowl, you should have a metal sieve and then strain the pastry cream, and make sure you are scraping down the bottom of the scraper as well, so you don't lose out. Okay, so now this has to be cooled to room temperature first, and then it has to be refrigerated. And so you have the right consistency of this cream, because every time you're going to use this pastry cream further again in our course, this has to be right from the refrigerator. So allow it to cool down in room temperature until it comes, because it is like quite hot now, you don't want to put it in the fridge right away. But to store the pastry cream, you need to have the cling wrap, and let the cling wrap touch the surface of the pastry cream, because it is going to form a film if you're going to allow it to rest in room temperature without the top layer of the cling film. And that film which forms is not going to keep the pastry cream smooth. Okay, so with the cling wrap on, this whole thing could be sealed with an airtight lid or something, or you could again, if this doesn't have a lid, then use a cling wrap and then cover this bowl entirely, leave it out in room temperature and then keep it in the fridge overnight. So this can also be part of the pre-preparation in the desserts or the cakes that you have to use. In that case, you can make it the previous day and then put it in the fridge overnight, so it can be used the next day in the desserts that we will be making.